Welcome back to Gollum, and dear Lord, we're almost done, guys. We're almost done.
Hang in there, man.
Anyway, celebrating at King's Grove. The elves are celebrating one of their famous seasonal woodland feasts. Since the Ace has protected them well in the past, they do not expect any danger. Magical lamps usually secure the camp, making everyone entering fall asleep instantly. Unfortunately, not all the lamps were in place when the orcs attacked. Okay, who misplaced?
That's why the orcs were able to attack. Like...
So who was the idiot who misplaced the lamps?
Again, Franduil really need to step up with this cohort.
Also, I love it. It's a plot hole in the story unless you look it up in the lore. That feels like a band-aid to patch a wound. And also, the game looked way more colorful there than it actually was during the actual part.
Alright, if again, by the end of the previous part, the Candleman has decided to finally take control of the lamb sauce, as Gollum Ramsay will put it. You know, so we need to stop him.
Okay.
How did he get in here anyway? I thought we, barricaded ourselves well.
I guess he eventually found a way to actually open the door, breach it.
Sorry, Joe, but there's nothing in the lore compendium to explain that, so we're fucked.
I love this. The Candleman wants to get Gollum so he can figure out how to go for the haze, but actually, they were able to get through the haze without Gollum. He wants Gollum to help him solve the puzzle to the door, but apparently he is able to solve the puzzle to the door on his own. It's like the game is poking fun at...
Let me explain what's happening here. This is by far the worst section of the game. Basically, this is the final moment of the game. You have to platform your way to the source so you can destroy it, so that the Candleman can't use it. Here's the problem, like I've explained before. Not all of these platforms have grabbable edges, like this one, for example. As a result, and while you're doing this platforming that I already explained is not great because of the controls, you also have to avoid the arrows, because remember, if you take too many arrows, you die by losing health. So not only
cannot delete Ali on the same spot.
So you have to do this incredibly clumsy. Platforming in a hurry, while dodging arrows.
I love it, because the thing is, yes, we have had a few sequences where enemies will shoot arrows, but normally it's just been enemies physically chasing you. Like, the only other time they would shoot arrows was if you got caught during... Oh.
Yeah, the other problem is that there's very few platforms that you can jump to, because most of them are way too far away, as you can see.
I'm guessing the game expects you to start from the ground
bottom, yes.
That's annoying and dangerous.
Again, I remember when Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones had the decent climax. It was better.
Again, this wouldn't be a problem if I could grab every fucking platform instead of just whatever platforms the game decides I can grab.
Speaking of Prince of Persia and platforming, I hear the new game is actually pretty good.
Oh, that's not even too much of a platformer, but that's not even the point.
Anyway,
I mean, I consider it a platformer, but okay, fair enough. I digress. This game sucks, so what do we do now?
Like I said, we have to do a platform our way through this while dodging arrows, which means we can't just take our time to try to do the platforming properly. We have to do it quickly, and considering the controls suck, that means that it's incredibly easy to screw this thing up, meaning this is by far the most annoying part of the game to me, because it's like Taylor would say, this game is way of ramping the difficulties by throwing everything at you, and even including the kitchen sink. So
I was gonna ask if staying in the shadows could help, but
nope.
What shadows? There are no shadows.
The shadow you're in right now, there.
It wasn't enough to cover. That's the thing, Jova. The game has a specific way to mark a place in which Gollum stands as being hidden in the shadow.
Black.
Just a simple shadow is not enough.
Dear Lord.
Which I guess means you just have to constantly be moving to avoid those arrows.
Which, again, is not really a feasible demand considering these controls.
In a movie, I could totally see
there you go.
An epic moment.
Trust me, that was a lot more annoying than I made it seem, because you didn't see, there was a lot of failures that you didn't see.
Black speech.
The language of Mordor, because you forgot.
That's in Crash Bandicoot.
I find it amazing how Gollum never brings this up in the original trilogy.
I get, well, to be fair, much like with the Black Gate, nobody asked him.
I guess.
Yeah, nobody asked. Either that or Gollum and Smeagol both agreed to never speak of this again.
I love that he's holding the crossbow like it's supposed to be a gun.
Why
Do
was
you want
Gollum looking?
pineapple on your pizza? Oh.
Why
was Gollum looking up when he should have been looking down?
And why does he? And why are you asking him that? What does that got to do with anything?
The night.
What does the?
Maybe you should shoot her because she's.
You are an incredibly stupid villain.
I mean, granted. Oh, and I guess Mel's just distracting him while the orcs still shoot at us.
Yeah,
like, I guess
with a countering campaign.
So now you have to jump towards that thing. And hold on. I'm trying my best to run to make sure.
You can do it, Gollum. You can save
And
the
there you
world.
go. Fortunately, the game cuts to cutscene mid-jump, so it's not that bad.
That's enough to defeat the magic. Just.
So the big source of the haze, the product of the fucking elf magic of the king, Thranduil, can be easily destroyed by just shoving a fucking stick on the orb.
To be fair, Pedro, throw a wrench into an engine and see what happens.
I guess, but there's a difference between a man-made engine and fucking magic. I just...
Elf magic at that. Kaboom!
And they all died.
Now what?
We have one final gameplay section before this is over. I'm not kidding you. I swear to you. As this cutscene started playing, and when I was recording blind, I was going, "Okay, game, are we done? Please tell me we're done, game."
You're not done yet until you've answered.
Until they say so.
And I'm like, and this is where I went, "Oh fuck, hell more."
yeah.
Defeat
We need
the
to-
Candleman.
Yeah, we need to actually.
Yeah. Let me put it right now, Jova. Don't get your hopes up for an interesting boss battle.
And so Gollum died by sinking into
Before he
cold
could fight.
It's
drink.
more of a case. It's more of a case of the real challenge is the gauntlet in order to get to him.
Yeah.
Alright, two
Really?
things.
You get to him and the cutscene triggers. That's it.
Alright, two things. One, I'm surprised the Candleman wasn't crushed to death by the falling debris. And two, could you imagine if J.R.R. Tolkien wrote down, but just before Gollum could confront the Candleman, he fell down a hole due to his own clumsiness and died. The end.
I will say
Granted, falling down is what kills Gollum in the actual canon, but still.
well, that's I guess
Also-
too much technical, I suppose.
Also, shouldn't the Candleman be happy that Gollum technically wrecked the elf magic? Like, wasn't
no,
that
he
what they were
wanted
trying
to
to do?
control it.
Yeah, he wanted to control it for himself.
Or
Still,
for,
I mean-
for Sauron.
Still, I mean, consider it a win-win, though, dude. Like, I mean, the haze is down, so now you guys can invade elf country
Yes, but
as
the
much as you
game-
like.
Yes, but the game wants a last-minute villain, so the Candleman was chosen to be that.
And I'm guessing... I'll need to check again something.
I'm not gonna lie, this does seem like the game is just spinning its wheels at this point. Like, we had the big
Well,
high
remember,
magic...
Joe, we're towards the end of the game, and usually this is... usually in every development cycle, you know, the final part, the final stretch tends to be the most rushed part.
And there you go. The game is done. The rest is just
Wait,
cutscenes.
really?
Yes.
Yeah, Gollum kills the Candleman in a cutscene. You don't even get the enjoyment of a QTE.
Maybe there was going to be a final boss, but stuff happened.
Again, to
Probably.
be fair, again, Gollum is not too much of an action guy, I understand that, but again, give me a QTE. Is that too much to ask? Bird up.
Why am I not shooting? No, seriously, why aren't you shooting, dude?
We really needed to cut to another cutscene for that.
So let me get this.
Wait,
I love that.
all the work is on our side?
I love that. That is terrible directing. He literally took his sweet time pressing the trigger just to wait for the bird to peck him.
And I love that in between these scenes we needed loading. Like each
They
scene had to be
really-
loaded separately.
Good lord.
Yeah, again, I think that was where a fight was meant to be. I swear.
Probably, yeah.
So let me get this straight. So the bird was betraying us until it wasn't, or maybe it's to show that.
Christ, the bird turns face and heel more than the Big Show.
Maybe
it's to show that the bird was always on our side.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of Gollum. Enjoy the ending.
First, we need to wrap things up with Mel.
How the heck did you get all the way over here?
Beats the hell out of me.
Now let me guess, if you kill Gwendol, then obviously she finds out something's wrong and rejects Gollum.
I checked, yes, so she does
Which
exactly
again, makes it weird because it sounds like Smeagol's way is the bad ending, yet it feels like you have to work more to get that bad ending. What the hell? Like, normally the idea is you have to work more for the good ending.
I guess, is it that?
I love it. These two are literally lemoning, and Gollum is just standing there watching.
So let me get this straight.
Gollum, they're having a moment.
So let me get this straight. The way to get the best ending in this game is to do every single good decision up until the very last one.
And that's the thing. You need to make the good decisions to be able to pull off the killing. So, again, let me get this straight. Gollum's logic is, oh, you killed so many people, so we shouldn't kill this one. Whereas, oh, you didn't kill that many people, so we should kill this one.
So yeah, the Riddle Master will come back with Mel and convince Thranduil to actually stop hiding, which is something technically that does happen in the book on the sidelines. Essentially, the elves of Thranduil fought in the so-called War of the North, which was happening alongside the War of the Ring.
Be here, Lisa. If you pause here, you can pinpoint exactly the moment where his heart breaks.
Seriously, look, I mean, yeah, the elf romance in the original trilogy is fine, but then elf romance in the Hobbit trilogy, not needed. Elf romance in the Gollum game, leading with Hunchback of Notre Dame-esque.
Well, here's the thing, Jova. Like, Gwendol shows up in the last hour of the game, so can you even count this as a romantic subplot?
Gollum contemplates on actually finishing the job.
But he can't do it because he loves Mel so much.
Either that, or he just prefers to just move on with his their lives, which,
I mean,
to be fair, I can understand.
I mean, look, for as much as I poke fun at the fact that, yes, they essentially threw in a Gollum elf romance, this could have been done better. The problem was Mel shows up way too late in the game.
I was totally hoping for Gollum to be up there on... a deer, huh?
Up there like Batman.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, get it? That's how it looks like a deer from that perspective.
However, we do have one last choice before finishing things off.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
So, back to doing whatever Gollum likes to do, I guess.
Gollum blows up the town.
West. Into the mountains.
Yeah, we're actually not to remember, if you know the placement in the map in the Hobbit, the Mirkwood is not too far from the from the Misty Mountains, so Gollum is on his way to actually try to reach Baggins, Bilbo. There he is.
So we can choose, let me guess, to either kill the bird or spare
or leave it be. Yeah, that's your last choice.
I am incredibly tempted to kill the bird for betraying us, but again, I'm committed to my Smeagol run.
Well, to be fair, again, the game has given you plenty of material to work with either. Like, sure, bird betrayed us, but again, it's just a bird. I mean, it was probably also bound by magic. The fact that he managed to add that revolving door kind of thing at the end was admittedly a bit weird. So, again, killing him seems more logical because he betrayed us, but at the same time, his actions were more dictated by stupidity and being bound by magic more than anything.
And the thing is, at the last minute, the bird just saves us.
And
for
again,
some
it's
reason.
supposed to be a bigger metaphor about what Gollum and Smeagol are inside. It's just that, you know, because of all the elements not gelling well with the game, it doesn't really, you know, you don't really feel it.
So there you go, guys. The Candleman has been defeated, and Gollum has lost. The Candleman has been defeated. Gollum has let go the love of his
Weeks
life.
later.
And the bird is flown free.
Mines of Moria,
weeks?
Doors of Durin.
The doors of Durin. In case you forgot, the doors on the western side, Gollum entered the other way and was actually reaching here.
Now behold, I want this final cutscene to be the pinnacle symbolic representation of this entire game.
How did he manage? How did he manage to not be noticed by the goblins?
I have no fucking clue.
That's a good question. Are they?
If I had to guess, the rest of Mirkwood and Moria
Notice
were
this.
supposed to be levels that were scrapped.
This is the this upcoming moment is the perfect symbolic representation of the entire game. So Gollum comes across a stone wall / door.
Yeah, the door that in the Fellowship they did open on the other side. There's a bit of symbolism on this.
And there you go. He literally hits a brick wall, and that stops them dead in his tracks. There you go.
Again,
And
that is why the Fellowship manages to actually find him in the Mines of Moria. He was already there, starting to stalking them. But again, the symbolism that, if you forgot, the doors of Durin were done in conjunction between the doors and the elves, and the only way to open them is to actually say the Elvish word for friends. So Gollum cannot open it because he doesn't know about friends.
or Elven language, I guess.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's your tie-in.
If Mel had been with him, yeah, I guess he would have passed, but alas. And that's how he would have actually eventually stumbled into the Fellowship. Yeah, say friend and enter. If you forgot from the movies, the Elvish word for friend is melon.
Alright everybody, stay tuned, don't go away just yet, because after the credits we have the final bits of lore to read. But yeah, that is it. Gollum performed by Wayne Forrester, like we already said.
At least he gets, top billing.
That's it, yep.
More credits?
Yes, and now during the credits we actually get some illustrations of what happens after, you know, here's Gandalf.
Opening the door, remember in the book he did open the door and not Frodo.
And here we have
the Fellowship inside Moria. Possibly if I'm in the moment that the Balrog is about to arrive.
Run, you fools. Alright.
Even the credit music is kinda lame.
Yep.
I know, right?
Well, at least the artwork looks good.
Also, is it just mirrored to the frame rate, or the credits seem a bit off too?
Because it's like doing returns all over again.
It feels like artwork that could have been put in the books themselves, considering the style.
It's not the same, but yes, I get what you mean.
Game and level design, yeah, try again.
Try again.
Actually,
I guess we can start the final thoughts in the meantime.
Alright.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, Whips.
Well, this was shit.
You don't say.
You don't say, Whips.
Okay. The gameplay looks really, really jerky and finicky. Mostly because of the glitches, but also because of the really poor-looking controls.
Mm-hmm.
The graphics look like they're an early PS4 game instead of a PS5 game. That this is meant to be, I understand, is it, Pedro?
Hold on. Based on an idea by Jen Faison and Julian Strozda. You clearly should have kept that idea to yourselves. You said, Dwibs? Sorry? Yeah, it's a cross-gen game, Dwibs. It's on PS4 and PS5.
The technical aspects, well, when the game isn't being glitchy, it looks really... Well, this isn't a very good-looking game aside from the environment when you go to the Elf Kingdom. They look alright. Everywhere else just looks really like not even drab or not even drab in the good sense. Like oh, this is the really shitty looking place because it's evil and all that. No, it looks drab because it looks really boring. I've seen much more visually striking versions of Mordor. And I'm not even talking about the movies. I'm talking about the games that came out before this.
Mm-hmm.
The music is one of the worst soundtracks I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not expecting it to be Howard Shore, but they're not even trying with this. Half the time, it just feels like the composer's just playing random notes on the keyboard, hoping for it to churn out into a track. And the instrumentation choices are really questionable. It's like it's like a soundtrack I would make. Okay, put it this way: if you're worse than a soundtrack I can throw together, you're doing something wrong.
To go back real quick to the visuals, Dibs, remember, you yourself said in an earlier part of this that you thought MGS4 looks better, which is a PS3 2008 game.
That game came out 15 years before on a console 2 generations behind, and yet that looks better than this. That isn't a good sign.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to the developers, I both feel sorry for them, and I'm also just questioning them. Like, yeah, they're under shit conditions, but their ideas in the first place didn't sound very just weren't good anyway. It's like Sonic 06. Yeah, it sucks that the game was rushed and the developers were put through those conditions. But their ideas were shit in the first place, so even if it were fully polished, would it really help the game all that much?
You can polish a turd all you want, but it's still a turd at the end of the day.
Like, okay, if this game had been polished up, okay, now that has to wonder, when we say polished up, are we just saying, oh, it's not as buggy as it is, or are we also factoring in them maybe tinkering with the level design to not make the game as broken as it is?
That's the thing. The story would still be bad, and yeah, I get. Here's the thing. I will argue, Jova, that in order to quote unquote fix this gameplay, you have to basically start from scratch because the foundation itself, for the reasons I've already explained, the foundation in itself is flawed by design. Go ahead.
Well, that's why I asked, like, well, if by polish we're also including like them retinkering the level design because.
Oh, what is this part right here?
Remember the scene where Sam, ask Gollum to help him get a rabbit.
Oh, right.
And then Sam goes, potatoes.
Go ahead.
Didn't you already credit the English actors earlier?
You see, Dwebs, since the voice acting is the best thing about this game, they decided they deserve double credit.
Double, you're
I guess they had to get some.
Fair enough.
Why do I get the feeling? Okay, look, and I'll say this: even with the voice actors all being fine, why do I get the feeling none of them are going to put this on their resume?
Again, to be fair, Gollum's voice actor actually has already plenty of solid roles.
There you go. Composer June Broom. There you go. That's the composer, June Broom.
Yeah. We did check in one of the early parts, and apparently this is only.
Hold on. Melissa, www.broomsolo. That's not even properly aligned. You couldn't even properly align the text to be centered.
Okay. Two things. One, Gollum was literally Captain Scarlet. And two, wait, this soundtrack wasn't done on crappy sound software. They actually used real instruments. It sure as hell doesn't sound like it.
I get. So I don't know what to tell you.
It came off to me that they were using sound software from 2000. Maybe they just mixed and recorded it badly. I don't know.
Probably.
But
right.
Yeah, that's it from me. Unless there's anything I've missed. Oh yeah, the story.
Yeah, the story.
What story? It's just Gollum running around doing really uninteresting stuff. The best character is an elf who we don't see till like near the end.
Well, if there's any consolation, Dweebs, she cannot see us either.
Lovely. Yeah. Well, okay, and And okay, her being happy with her lover at the end, sure, why not? That's like the most emotional investment I got out of this game. So, well done. You got me invested in.
I do like this artwork. This artwork looks
if you
good.
forgot, that's the scene where Faramir finds Gollum in the Forbidden Pond.
This artwork definitely looks something like that could be put alongside the books themselves.
Gollum
I don't think Tolkien.
Gollum looks a bit too much like Ape Sapiens for me, but sure.
Yeah, I don't think Tolkien drew anything, did he?
No, he's just a writer.
There was a dedicated artist for one particular issue of a book, but the name keeps escaping me, unfortunately. And those illustrations were the one that both Bakshi and Jackson took inspiration from.
Right.
So I'm guessing, Dibs, you agree with me that Mel probably should have had more presence in the overall story.
Well, I mean, she should have been introduced a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that we literally tease a romance between.
Oh, and look at that, NVIDIA. Wait, did NVIDIA work on this game?
I guess.
Well, I mean, they probably just use their technology to help develop the game.
I guess.
You remember Daedalic is a company.
Oh, I shall up.
Yeah, Daedalic as a company working on point-and-click games, mostly worked on PC, so it's safe to assume that they would have prioritized that version.
Huh. That actually does sound like an awesome title, I'm not gonna lie. Code Shaman.
And there's Gollum looking at the volcano going.
Gollum's going to die in that thing.
Actually, I think that's our last illustration that we'll see later. Go on.
Yeah, again, like I said, Gollum's gonna die in that thing.
Wow, my country needed 2 localizers instead of 1, and Russia needed 3.
But of just detail, like this is a and there's also Brazilian Portuguese localization.
Polish.
Obviously, there's none from. I mean, if remember, only PlayStation does European Portuguese localizations.
Turkish localization
and Japanese localization.
Yeah, you have to remember, this is standard stuff. When it comes to Steam releases, you know, those tend to, aside from Multi-5, those extra type of languages for Western games tend to be the most selected. Brazilian Portuguese, Polish, and Japanese and Korean, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Also, 2 different versions of Mandarin.
Alright, you done, Blips?
Yeah, that's it.
Wait, hold on. It cut to the same picture. Like, I noticed it went black,
Even
cut to the same picture.
Can't you? It's literally a picture slideshow. You can't even get that right.
What, did you have to load another section of the credits? Like, holy cow, dudes. Our expectations were low, but god damn.
Jesus fucking Christ. Alright, remember, we still have more lore to read after this is over. Are we done here, game? With the credits?
Are you pretty much done with your final thoughts?
Yeah, you already said he is. Oh, you know, special thanks to Middle-earth Enterprises. Yeah, I'm sure.
Essentially, the Tolkien estate.
Family, friends, and pets, to everyone who supported us during this
special thanks to Pokey. Who's Pokey?
To our Ukrainian partners who kept working relentlessly. Even
and there's Gollum.
There you go. The last illustration is Gollum contemplating the ring before he falls in the lava.
Alright, props for crediting the Ukrainian developers, especially considering all this going on there at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, you know, while the game was being developed. So.
Alright, so before we go and we move on to the next batch of final thoughts, let's read the final lore that gets unlocked when you complete the game. So we have... Okay, we already read this. Forest Path. Okay, this is so cumbersome to navigate. You can't even get menus right. Paths in Mirkwood. Gollum followed an old path through Mirkwood that was once part of the Elvish settlements near the mountains of Mirkwood, where the old king, father of Thranduil, had his central places of power. When the shadow moved into Mirkwood and slowly northwards, the wood elves slowly retreated northwards as well. Other sources say they wanted to put some distance between themselves and the dwarves of Khazad-dûm,
yes.
Khazad-dûm, with whom they quarreled a lot. So basically, the elves and the dwarves don't get along. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic stuff.
Next entry. Ruins Gate. Ancient ruins in Mirkwood. The elves in Mirkwood had not always lived underground or out in the woods. The Sindar, who were leading the Sylvan elves, used to build great castles like the one that became Dol Guldur after being occupied by Sauron. The ruined castle in the mountains had at first been a watchtower. Its name, Karas Mindan, means precisely that. So Kara's Minden means watchtower. There you go. And that's it. That's all we have about the ancient ruins. Okay, next, the haze. I'm guessing is probably the source. No, we have the North Tower first. Okay, North Tower. After the elves moved north and the tower became a more central place in their realm, the elves rebuilt it into a resting place for the queen, the mother of Legolas. When the shadow crept into Mirkwood again, the elves abandoned the castle and other buildings in this area, moving further north. We can still find traces of young Legolas within the castle next to those of the orcish occupiers. So pay attention at the tower, because you can still find traces of young Legolas somewhere in here. The source. The inherent powers of the water, representing emotions.
David.
Thank you, David.
And the powers of the air, representing thoughts, are magnified and bound to the purposes desired by the elven magicians who created the haze. Elves usually work with powerful songs and words, sometimes enhanced by magical instruments or rings. In the old times, the elven smiths who forged the rings of power also created lesser magical rings, and it is likely that at least King Frendil and Gwendil, the Riddle Master, possessed such items and used them in creating the spell. From the source, the magic flows into the enchanted river that runs along the borders of the woodland realm. As long as the source remains active, the magic flows. However, dark powers have long spoiled the water of the enchanted river. So basically, the elves made both real, legit rings of power, and they also made bootleg versions.
With minor capacity. This is only half truth. It's complicated.
I guess so.
The Shadowology gave a better explanation overall.
Yeah,
honestly.
Basically. I swear, why is it that the menu always resets back to the top every time I leave an entry? It's so hard to tell where I am at with this thing.
Really odd.
Seriously, I cannot stand this lore compendium, and I paid extra for it, by the way. Anyway, the nature of elven magic. Elven magic uses the energy of natural phenomena, as does magic of the higher beings. Tolkien described it as a form of art, at least in the eyes of the elves. For mortal men, it is plain magic, dangerous and confusing to the mind. Yeah, like this game. The makings of many elven magicians or artists enhance the spells, so they can also affect other elves or magical creatures. I got it, guys. That's it. The source is actually representation of this game. Gollum was able to destroy the source because Mel, who had once helped with its creation, was there to guide and protect him. First, the connection of the natural elements, wind and water, had to be severed. Second, Mel needed to use her innate powers to let the source dwindle.
What? Honestly, after seeing what happened, it doesn't really sound all that impressive. It can easily be defeated just by shoving a stick into it.
Yeah, basically.
It'd be like if it'd be like if all that was needed to beat Thanos was to like poison his food or something.
And it's so confusing. Like, at first it seems like the bad guys want to get rid of the haze, but then all of a sudden they want to control it. But I'm like, again, the bad guys should consider it a net win that the haze mechanism ball thingamajig is destroyed, because now they can pretty much launch an assault on it. Heck, technically, just the Candleman was defeated. As far as we know, there were plenty of orc stragglers left over. In fact, we do know because some were still
Pedro
shooting.
is right. The Candleman's daughter just disappears. I thought maybe the crumbling of the source maybe killed her along the other orcs, but it's never stated.
Oh, remember too. I
We
recorded
never
this
saw
like a
her
couple days.
inside there.
I recorded this a couple days ago too. I have this fresh on my mind, so I remember. Yeah, I'm sorry, Taylor. I don't know what to tell you. But I mean,
Whatever. We're technically done now.
yes, we are done with Gollum. So, Jova, final thoughts, please.
In the words of our late and immortal great savior, this latest quest was most unsatisfying.
Yes.
Like, I am sorry, but yeah, aside from maybe a few tidbits that show how things ended up in the original trilogy, what a value actually happened here. Like, okay, so pretty much 75% of the story is told in medias res, with Gollum essentially just confessing to Gandalf. Then, the part of the game that actually matters, ergo us forming a relationship with Mel, feels incredibly rushed as a result, not helped by the fact that Mel kind of disappears from the plot herself. And hey, wait a minute. Wasn't the cook supposed to come to our aid since we rescued her?
The cook disappeared from the plot as well.
It was only mattering. The cook was only mattering. When
For the final choice.
For decisions that Gollum made along the way. Again, Jova, I get it, the thought process, but it really does feel admittedly a bit of, the real, experience was the friends that we made along the way.
Like, that's the thing. Even the experience feels worthless because, okay. Now, we've played games where some characters come and go, but Jesus, never have I felt like characters that felt just like game pieces than in this game, because, again, aside from Mel, just about none of them matter. The Beastmaster, an incredibly sadistic bad guy of ours, just lets us go when we spare him, which doesn't make any narrative sense. Like, he is a bloodthirsty orc who has abused Gollum all this time. Like, what's his logic? Oh, I trained you well, that's why you didn't kill me, so you can go? Even though you're the reason we came to these woods in the first place.
If you were trying to make the character more sympathetic and more faceted to demonstrate that, not all orcs are bloodthirsty monsters and there is a shadow of humanity in them somewhere. Like Jova just said, poor job at doing that.
And conversely, they don't really do a good job selling the elves on us as the, I guess, more moral decision, because they're absolute assholes to an unreasonable extent. To the point where, yeah, I probably would have spared the cruel Shiel, but only because the Beastmaster is, like,
worse.
Obviously mustache-twirlingly worse. Like, aside from that, though, I have no tears to shed for that woman. And, and the thing is, the game doesn't feel like it either. It's like, oh, she's dead. Move on. In fact, I don't think we even get a reaction from the Beastmaster. He just stands there. If I recall correctly, he doesn't say anything to us. Like, well, at that point, the story just clearly doesn't care. The problem is that that's the inkling I've gotten of the game throughout the entire experience with the story. That it just doesn't care and wants to waste our time as much as we can to, I guess, justify costing $60 to $70.
Yes, and allow me to remind you, that ticks me off because it's one of my big things. I cannot stand when pieces of media waste my time.
I still have the payoff, but I'm waiting my final thoughts, so go on.
But, yeah, no, okay, that's the story, but the gameplay. Holy cow. Pretty much from the moment you start moving Gollum, the problems become apparent. The movement is herky-jerky. The frame rate is at best just a suggestion of staying consistent. And the game's controls do not always act as they should, in the sense that, oh, you could be perfectly going against the wall, but suddenly the game will decide, you know what, nope, I'm not working now. And you'll die. You can try to grab a ledge that you should be able to grab, but you might die. Like, the fact that I compared Ghosts and Goblins to this positively is not a good sign. And look, I'm not even one who thinks Ghosts and Goblins is a terrible game, but the fact of the matter is that I feel Ghosts and Goblins has the capacity to be less frustrating than this game. And keep in mind, Ghosts and Goblins was a game made specifically to be tough.
Yes.
To the point of being grating. The thing is, that game, as far as I can recall, functions properly. Gollum, I swear, we could not go 5 minutes without catching an eye-grabbing glitch. And it's not just like, oh, maybe a typical glitch, but no, we saw some spectacular ones that the game was just throwing at us like candy. It's insane. Yes, the whole situation is insane. And not helped by the fact that they sometimes will introduce mechanics that are literally just there for, at the best, a fraction of a chapter before they go. But also, okay, and this cannot be stressed enough, the gameplay it sometimes just feel like it shifts on a dime overall, especially when we get certain things out of nowhere, like, oh, suddenly a perspective shift change. Oh, and by the way, as for that quest marker, it sucks. Sure, it'll point you towards the endgame goal, but it does it without any nuance of what's going on in between the goals. I mean, it's kind of a dark day when I have to say that Sonic Adventure 2's radar system feels like a better quest marker than this quest marker. And no, I will not take that back.
No,
but,
I spent literally 50 minutes on match play with Root.
Jova, what do you mean, like, you want to... Does anybody actually like the radar in Sonic Adventure 2? Like...
I'm more so going up for the fact that I would take that radar over this.
No, I get that. No, I get that. It's more so and I will not take that back, as if to say no. I don't. I'm gonna stand my ground on this one, as if you need to, because I don't think anybody likes that radar anyway. So,
that is true. That is very true. But again, this game is incredible in the sense that this is one of the worst developed games I've seen in a while, because it does a lot of bad things you see in other bad games, but ramps it up to 11. And yeah, okay, so the story is terrible. The gameplay is atrocious. How about the visuals? This game gets visually boring, partly because you're stuck in the same location for over half of the game, in arguably the sections of the game that matter the least. Like, all that really is important is the Candleman and his cruel daughter are established, and Gollum's relationship with the bird is established. And you know what? I love how the bird betraying us is treated as such a big thing, when that bird kind of dropped off from the plot itself for a while. This game has a tendency of building up plot points, then dropping them for a long time, and then acting like, oh, don't you remember? These were totally important all along, even though they weren't. But yeah, no, like, I feel like the fact that most people describe this as a game where you're essentially a prisoner pretty much speaks a lot. It's either people haven't made it past that part of the game, or let's factor in the fact that you are once again a prisoner for a lot of the second half of the game, this time with the elves. Like, it's somewhat more visually pleasing, but then that brings me to the issues of the music, which is homogeneous across the entire experience to the point where it feels ill-fitting at certain locations. And apparently they had an actual orchestra working on this. Like, come on, guys. Like, I can say that most people felt like they were trying. I don't get that feeling with the composer. And I don't mean in the sense that they intentionally cheaped out, but it really feels like they went for the most ambient, and I mean that in the bad way, because there's a right way to do ambient music. This game, like, it uses scary music during what's supposed to be a party sequence. Like, come on, lighten up with some bits. Which is funny, because there actually are bits of levity in the writing, where we'll have these weird, sort of modern jokes, like, oh, that's sounds like a Gollum problem.
Ugh.
Or when Gollum literally memes his own precious line saying, "My precious!" while jumping off Cowabunga style.
I tried to reflect it in between parts, and I thought maybe it's a case where, since it's his verbal tick, he will do that every time, even instead of just screaming, but it still really feels less that and more like they wanted to have a laugh, which, swing and a miss, guys.
I mean, it's like, yes, the My Precious line is famous in context, but in universe, it's not... Well, okay, yeah, Gollum does say precious a lot, but why would he shout "My precious" as like his Cowabunga-esque line while falling?
It's like if Mr. Spock in Star Trek did the same thing but shouted "Live long and prosper." That's
remember, Tail.
Problem what we have.
Remember, Tail. Bayformers 3 did that. Remember how the villain in that movie is played by Leonard Nimoy, where they have the villain literally bring up the Spock's most famous line in a context that doesn't make sense.
I haven't seen those movies yet, Pedro.
Okay, the difference is that it actually does make sense in context. Like, it's obvious they were just using it to reference it, but it makes sense in the context of the character, who's pretty much saying that the needs of the Transformers as a whole outweigh the needs of the humans, which they see as fewer in that regard. Like, and again, it's not like he's just shouting it as his Cowabunga-esque line. He's actually using it in a bout of syntax, a bout of dialogue, like... And the thing is, like Tio mentioned, maybe if they wanted to make it Gollum's verbal tick, that'd be one thing. but he doesn't say it that often in the game, which makes it obvious that...
No, actually, it's a thing that's kept both in the story and it's present also in this game, where Gollum will sometimes, not always, but sometimes address the person that he's talking to, as precious, potentially as a way to, falsely trying to get into their graces. And it's a thing that happens in this game, so it is technically his verbal tick. It's just a matter of, again, like he said, being misused for that scene.
Speaking of Gollum referring to people as precious, this gives me the perfect segue to the romance. Because, okay, maybe one could argue it's friendship, but no. The fact that Smeagol goes to the point of saying that he hates the precious heavily implies that he loves Mel. And this man is willing to do some things for that woman to the point of potentially cucking. Yes, there is a cuck arc involving Gollum, of all people now, in an official bout of media.
I just figured it out, Jova. I had a huge missed opportunity. I could have started this part with welcome back to some kind of
cuck arc.
No, keep going. I'll come up with one. Keep going.
Seriously though, somebody actually wrote, and then Gollum starts to have feelings for the elf, which, Ken, what is it with the series of elf romances?
I got it, Jova. Welcome back to Get Cucked, Gollum. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll just say this. Hey, Daedalic, Disney called. They want their Hunchback love triangle back. Because that is really what this feels like. Except, done badly, poorly, Jesus. Hell, Gollum's kind of a hunchback with how his posture is anyway, Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But no. Seriously, though, what is it with this franchise and cross-species elf romances? We get it, guys. It was a thing in the original trilogy. Why do they keep making a big deal of it in all these other mediums, though?
It reminds me of how in TMNT media they keep insisting on this idea of one of the turtles having a crush on April, and it's practically every incarnation has that for some reason, and I don't understand where this insistence comes from.
It's ramped up the most in TMNT 2012, where every turtle got a love interest, and Rouse was the only one that wasn't a human.
Go on.
Heck, Leo actually found love with the Shredder's daughter. Well, Splinters too, but it's complicated. Regardless, though, back to the point at hand, though. For as much as I poke fun at it, I do think it could have maybe have worked. The thing was, and I cannot stress this enough, Mel should have been there from near the start of the game. And this isn't even just for that. Mel is arguably the most interesting character in this game. Or hell, the one character aside from Gollum that I can say is well written in that regard. And keep in mind, that's for her having arguably less screen presence than the old guy in Grashnag, since, they could have potentially had more screen time, since while she does have arguably more of a point to the plot, she gets shooed out of the plot quite a bit here and there too, which is a shame, because she's a character who, A, has good interactions with Gollum, B, can give just as good as Gollum gives, and C, she actually has an interesting idea here. The idea of a flawed elf amongst the supposedly perfect elven race, with an interesting power set. Although it does make you wonder, how come we don't really see much other elves able to do this stuff, but...
Because they were not really supposed to do that much in the original.
Yeah. Seeing how his father is, it's amazing that Legolas turned out as well as he did. Because his father is a dick in this plot. And the problem is, the elves are just terrible beyond reason. My dude, you have the potential linchpin that could help you all here. Now, granted, they don't torture Gollum, but it's implied that they were about to start doing so because, that would totally make Gollum more willing to help you. It doesn't, and in some cases can lead to more the deaths of some of them, particularly Cruel She-Elf. Which, Yeah, let's talk about that. A lot of these characters don't even get proper names. Again, one could argue, it's
How Gollum
it's all
sees
from
them.
Gollum's point of view, but then some characters do properly get names, so it's inconsistent in that regard. But yeah, bringing it back to Mel, it boggles my mind that she was not in more of the game. Unless they did plan for there to be more with her before the game got rushed. Like, what we do know is that apparently they had a much better version of the game going, but at some point, a lot of it got scrapped and they had to go back to the drawing board, but didn't have much of the budget to fall back on for that sort of setback. All the same, though, Mel is probably the best character, aside from Gollum in this game. She should have been in it more, because if anything, the, let's call them good sections with Gollum and Mel, really just highlight the bad of all the other parts of the game. Like, and even with other characters we could supposedly form relationships with, they pretty much go in and out of the plot. Like, we have the elf cook, but it's like our interaction with her ends by saving her life. We don't even get to speak to her one last time. It leaves me feeling so...
empty.
Yeah, so empty and unfulfilled. And, like, it really just leaves you wondering, what was the point? I get it. They're trying to play safe to not mess with the continuity as much, but if you're barely going to do anything because you're that scared of messing with the continuity, what was the point of the product then? Like, again, for as much as we poke fun at some of Shadow of Wars' retcons here and there, at least it felt like it was making something of a contribution to the overall narrative here or there, which may or may not be considered canon nowadays, but I digress. This, though, sure, it goes into some details, but it's like, at most, we could have insinuated that this happened with or without Gollum anyway. It just doesn't feel satisfying, which is really a shame because you should feel some satisfaction in playing a game. There's no satisfaction to be found in this, just a sigh of relief when it's finally over. And God help you if you buy this full price, or God, with the $70 version.
Again, Joe, be patient. I'm about to address. I'll address that.
Because yeah, this DLC is such a ripoff. Oh yeah, you get lore that should have been in the game from the get-go. You can get emotes. Woo! I have never ever seen the value of paying for emotes. I just feel like those are animations that should be in the game from the get-go.
For a game, depends. If the game is entirely focused on multiplayer, you know, and you really don't need them, but you just wanted to have fun in those added in post. Like games like Team Fortress 2, you know, had that since the early 2010s, if not even before that.
I'm fine with emotes. I'm just sore on paying for them, especially in a game like this that does not have the multiplayer. In a game like this,
it makes no sense. So that's the problem. I mean, you can make an argument that at the very least they're superfluous, so you really don't need them.
Oh, and yeah, the Sindarin voice dialect. Again, how cheap do you have to be to include new voice lines that, again, should have been in the game from the get-go, but whatever, and not even translate them for people who aren't super fans? Like, that's the thing about this game. It asks a lot for its price, but gives you very little in return. So, the best value you can get out of this game is riffing material. Maybe if you're a content creator and really need something to review, you'll get stuff to talk about in this game, but otherwise, if you're just trying to have fun, avoid this game like the plague. Or watch a playthrough on YouTube, and pretty much just maybe see the parts where Gollum gets captured and bonds with the bird, then skip ahead to the point where he meets Mel, because
there are, plenty of, compilations, or in case you don't want a long play. So don't worry, Joe. The internet's got you covered for that.
Oh, yeah. It's just... this is sad, because a Gollum game could have worked. Hell, make a point-and-click Gollum game. It's not like you have masters of point-and-click. Oh, wait, you do. But alas, at this point, all we can do is look at the destruction that this game has wrought, as the dev company behind it was killed as a developer, ties were broken, and much consumer goodwill was lost in the lava that shall burn away Gollum himself with his precious. Pedro.
Well, actually, Teo, go on then.
Yeah. I'll
alright,
go
Teo.
next. This is just depressing, unfortunately. I still believe there is the gem of a good, product in this. And like I said, I think there is a way to make it, polished enough without having to tinker with it too much. Like I said, trim away the part at the beginning where Gollum is capturing the hold in Barad-dûr. Make that a tutorial if you have to, and which immediately goes with the escape. That way, already from that point, you have less of a facing problems, and by extension, the segments in which Mel is present now constitutes the majority of the game, And again, the other major thing that Pedro has mentioned, the two factors, dynamic camera and having surface be grabbable. We do know that that's apparently what happened because of problems doing testing, which, to me would have felt more, a sign that you probably should have not approached this game doing this angle, but, I'm not a programmer, I do not know this kind of shit, unfortunately. But yeah, it's with that kind of tinkering and having the base price being reduced to $35-40, it probably would have been a much better received product. Not necessarily to a good degree, mind you, but they were much more tolerable and less memed on. Honestly, the Lives and Jova said the most. The story is again stretched too much for what he wants to say. Despite wanting to distance themselves from the Peter Jackson movies or even Ralph Bakshi version, they added way too much stuff that either contradicts the canon or takes its sense of liberty. As I mentioned during the game, I can understand most of the stuff that they did, but that's like a tightrope walk. At some point, if you keep going like that, you're gonna fall. And sure, it would have been impressive for you managing to last that long, but you will still fall, which is what happened here, And again, that god-forsaken cock-arc at the end. Whose idea was it that thought that the natural conclusion of Gollum's, Smeagol inner conflict, being corrupted by anything, had to legitimately, go, ultimately end up in in a Hunchback of Notre Dame situation where he's in love with a person that's probably not even in love with him.
Now, Teo, I'm sure the fanfiction writer who finally got an opportunity to write a Gollum story worked really, really hard on this hackneyed romance.
The two people, ideally, as we saw in the credits, had the idea of this. I don't know, maybe in the original script there was a bit more fleshing out of this, there were nuances, and maybe that's what the fact that it's bad is because that's what we ended up with. But again, it's just speculation. For all I know, it really is just that bad, with no real fuss or fanfare, unfortunately. The music is just ambiental stuff. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's the worst stuff ever, but it's a thing. It's just there. I'm not gonna hum or listen to it any moment. Again, our short managed to make such a memorable score even in its minute components. You couldn't even do anything similar to that. But again, as we noticed also from the credits, apparently this was the composer's first and so far only major job. So they probably had a rookie for that. Again, it's just depressing. The voice acting is fine for the most part. I don't mind, the voice actor, Ricky's voice actor or Captain Scarlet, as we've said, for Gollum. I think it's just enough. We were conditioned by Andy Serkis, but I think this is a good, solid alternative. Much better than the one in the Ralph Bakshi version, if you ask me, just to make another comparison.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
The other characters are fine, like Gandalf was fine, Thranduil was fine, the Candleman was fine, Mel was fine. No, really, I think maybe a couple of the NPCs were a bit, more miss than hit, but I think the voice acting is actually one of the strongest parts of the game, so at the very least there's that. The presentation is something that puzzles me, not so much in terms of, the graphical quality, as we've said, but more the art style choices. Again, wanting to detach themselves from the Jackson movies, okay. But why do the orcs have specific type of weapons, particularly something similar to pre-Columbian civilization weapons, the stick with fangs, sticking out of it. And something similar to that, stuff that was not particularly discussed or showcased in Tolkien's books. I don't know where they got that kind of idea from. The Candleman's outfit and Thranduil's more elaborate, elvish outfits are actually fine. I don't mind those. I know that people tend to have, bigger reactions of ridiculizing of potentially complex outfits, even if I don't particularly understand that, but I do think these are technically fine for what they wanted to build the mythologies. More of a case of other stuff like, again, the orc weapons, for example. Again, the color palette is all over the place, so the moment you enter into Mirkwood, things are actually much better, but you have to endure more than half of the game. Again, that's the big problem, I think. And the gameplay is just not enjoyable. That's the other big culprit. If the story was still the way it is, it would have still been bad with the pacing and everything. But if you had something, something fun to play, at the very least, it will have some degree of enjoyment. But it's not even that. Gollum doesn't go through any kind of, in-game gameplay evolution in the game. He doesn't acquire nearly new abilities. He doesn't even improve what he has. And like I said, you don't have to make Gollum an action guy, but put the strengths into what he's capable of doing. Acrobatics, potentially, walking, grabbing things around and everything, and being sneaky about it. Have a set of an upgrade system, or maybe at some point of the story, something, at some point of the story where Gollum's presence in Barad-dûr, for example, sharpens his senses a bit better, so he knows better the place and can do different actions. That way, you also get the stimulations of, doing new things. But pretty much all those things near the beginning, you do the same exact things, and because they're broken from the beginning, it's a constant, slog through. The puzzles, only a few of the puzzles are actually pretty neat, and you can see the shining through of the point-and-click genre that this possibly could have been. But other than that, again, the gameplay is just a waste. A badly first attempt by a company that was amateurly trying to do something different, and really should have just stuck to what they know what to do, And again, the decisions of the DLC placement baffles me. Not so much, for what kind of content it is. Again, if his content was in the base game, hypothetically, as much as it's badly handled, I really wouldn't have too much of a problem, because at the very least, it's some kind of material. The data log is, at least it provides you with some kind of information. The scene that is just an optional fictional language where you can toggle on and off, ideally, But the problem is that they make, and the emotes are just superfluous, but the problem is they make you they charge you for this, and so much about it. And the whole will cost you $70.
Remember, €4.99 for the lore campaign. $5 for this.
Which begs the question. But gee, if only I could spend actually better my money with that. Well, fear not, dear viewer. Just for today, I will provide you 2 images. I wanted to try a bit more, but in order to not to drag this long. So let's say that you have bought, you bought Gollum because you enjoy these kind of stealth games, but you want to do something relatively unconventional, something that doesn't necessarily have to deal with the formula.
That's me. Tails talking about me.
Well, I'm not sure of us, because fear not, dear viewer, I do have the solution from you on Steam. Mind you, not all of these games are available across all platforms, but for as a general rule of thumb, you can find them, a bit all over the place. So let's use Steam as a comparison, especially because Daedalic mostly has their fan bases there. If you want your true stealth experience with $70, by the time we're recording even less because of a sale going on, you can get the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, which even if it's not the super duper most optimal way to play the game, has been patched enough to be more enjoyable. The entire 5th series, which includes the 4th title, but it's just a package, it's included in there, and the System Shock duology. That's a total of 4, 5, at more than 10 games with the same kind of price, with much more content, which are functionally polished. Sure, you need to do a minor tinkering with some of the older titles, but that's really not a big deal, trust me. And you get your money's worth not for this game. But I know what you're thinking also. But what if I did not bought Gollum for the stealth, but because of the setting? After all, Skyrim mods alone cannot satisfy anymore my Tolkien desires. Well, again, fear not. Only on Steam, for example, I'm pretty sure it's even better on every console like PS4 and Xbox One. You can get the Middle-earth Shadow duology we talk about at $70. That's actually 2 games, but they're very huge with content, with a better storytelling, more polish, and definitely a funnier gameplay. And it includes all the DLCs and everything. So again, they charged you for Gollum this kind of price, where just for this few comparison could get this amount of content and this amount of quality. That's the big problem that Pedro and all of us have talked about. If this was a more budgeted title, like he said, and with a less intrusive beginning section, it probably would have been just mediocre, and people would have just passed by. The problem was that it was hyped from the beginning, because I did follow the development of this game as it was going.
Very since 2019, yeah.
With all the delays and everything. It was very hyped from the beginning. It was supposed to start a big initiative about solo Middle-earth games,
oh, right, we lost a whole game or two because of this game's failure.
And again, it was also the killer, and it was also, tried to put up as the one of the selling points being the game for Tolkien fans who were not particularly caring about the movie trilogies, But again, because of all of these, expectation and everything, that stuff, which is already more from the norm that you could expect, are amplified in magnitude, and as a result, you get a bigger crash, which in this case killed Daedalic as a company. And honestly, as much as I'm saddened for them, the circumstances unfortunately led that way. I can only hope that the developers actually found, a better working condition somewhere else, and they can actually heal from this. Not the people who force them onto this path, obviously, but best of wishes to those who were the actual victims in all of this. And I'm not talking about just the consumer, just for the developers who were the victims of this. I'm pretty sure I'm done with this, so Pedro.
By all means.
I mean, there's absolutely nothing else to be said, really. It's just a shit game made by a developer who bit off way more than they could chew. And it also just... Again, the overall aspects didn't particularly... Like I said before, I genuinely don't understand why they thought this would be a good story, because barely anything happens in it until the 70% meter, and even then, the stuff that does happen is not particularly great. Mel comes into the plot way too late to make any kind of difference, and even then, she's not exactly... she's no Saruman, I'll tell you that much.
It's like I said before, Mel is one of those cases where the best character in this game is the equivalent to the worst character in a much better game.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's what I say was sad in Final Fantasy XIII.
So the game doesn't really do a great job with its own original story, and when it comes to dealing with the material that was made up by Tolkien, it poorly treats it. The way Gollum is written is not good. A lot of times it feels very out of character. This literally feels like a Lord of the Rings fan fiction. He literally has all the traits of one.
Heck, we've even got the Gollum falling in love with an elf.
Yeah, exactly.
Although,
this is literally a Lord of the Rings, or Middle-earth if you prefer, fan fiction. That's basically what this is. I mean,
bad fan fiction specifically.
Yeah. Like a really bad fanfic. That's basically what this is. The gameplay is bad for all the reasons that I've already ranted on about. The music is whatever. I cannot for the life of me remember anything from this fucking score. The visuals are middling at best, and yeah, it's not great. Like again, it's just a shit game. It's going to be quickly forgotten because there's nothing in this game that is worth remembering, like at all. Who knows? Maybe it could have been a better game if Daedalic had better conditions, a bigger budget, and and things were actually allowed to do better. Maybe, who knows? But
or give this to a developer who's probably better.
More experienced at this kind of thing. Yeah, that's the other problem. Daedalic was not the right developer for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Supposedly, this was an idea that came from them. And
again, it seems that specifically the upper management, as I think Jova or Dweebs found out, and apparently the rest of the team was basically dragged on because of this.
Again, just to recap, it was about where, it seems mostly like the CEO and COO handed Daedalic this project, said, hey, here's a AAA project, but with like a cheap-ass budget. Make something great out of this. And the growing pressure from the higher-ups did not help morale of the devs, who were becoming more and more stressed and demoralized as a result, trying to make ends meet with this thing. And, well, then, they had to scrap stuff, delays happened, and, it sounds like the process was not pleasant, to say the least.
Basically, yeah. It's, not great. Not great indeed.
So in the end, Pedro, who do you think won the argument? Beagle or Gollum? That's the biggest, I guess, important question, I suppose.
I don't know, Theo. I guess at the end of the day, nobody. Actually, no. I'm just gonna go with the safe answer. In this game, too, nobody wins.
I guess except Mel, who gets to be back with her lover.
True.
Maybe in the end, the true pressures were the people we befriended along the way.
Yes, why not?
In the end, guys, at least we had a lot of laughs.
Alright,
not so much Pedro because you had to record this.
No, the recording process itself was quite painful. I can assure you of that. But I still enjoyed.
Guess at least you didn't seem to suffer the recording curse, for what it's worth.
Not particularly, no. But that's okay. I still enjoyed, at the very least, doing this for the sake of, this is a game that I wanted to at the very least see the game for myself, if it really was that bad. Final verdict. Yes, it really is that bad.
No.
Oh yeah. It had to climb, but it certainly earned its spot as one of the worst games of 2023, if not one of the worst games of this decade.
Yeah.
Potentially all time.
We're done with Middle-earth for a while. There are still some games that maybe in the future we're considering, but again, for the time being, we're
gonna take a break from Middle-earth at this point. Because I feel like after this, I need a break from Middle-earth. So.
See you eventually for anything.
See ya.
Ta-ta.